Picture this. You've just survived a brutal week at work. Your boss says, "Great job, team," which we all know means there's pizza in the break room and absolutely no raise. Payday hits. You're expecting $2,000. You open your bank app, $1,472. You stare at it like the app just insulted your family. You scroll down, and there it is. Federal tax, state tax, Social Security, Medicare. Congratulations! You just funded a highway in Ohio, a school lunch in Nebraska, and at least half a missile. And you're supposed to feel grateful. Welcome to the U.S. financial system, where your money goes on a field trip before you even meet it. Hey, I'm Jack, your friendly financial translator, turning Wall Street jargon into normal human words so you don't end up Googling, "What is a bond?" at 2 a.m., pretending you understand investing and compound interest while staring at a chart like it's going to explain itself. If you like learning how money actually works without falling asleep, hit like, hit subscribe, and let's make your bank account slightly less confused. Taxes. The subscription you never signed up for. Taxes are basically the world's most aggressive subscription service. You don't remember signing up, you can't cancel, and they keep increasing the price. In the US, the system is progressive, which means the more you earn, the higher your top tax rate goes. The highest federal bracket is still 37%, but most people aren't paying that. According to the Congressional Budget Office, middle-income households end up paying somewhere around the mid-teens when you average everything out. Then Social Security takes 6.2% of your paycheck up to a cap, Medicare takes another 1.45%, and suddenly your paycheck looks like it went through a paper shredder. The wild part is the IRS already knows what you owe. They literally have the numbers. But once a year, they make you play financial Sudoku. If you get it right, nothing happens. If you get it wrong, you owe money plus a fine. It's the only game show where the prize is not going to jail. Banks. Your money is not sitting in a vault with a dragon. Most people think banks take your money and put it in a vault. Like there's a giant steel door and a dragon named Kevin guarding your savings. That is not what happens. When you deposit money, the bank keeps a slice and loans the rest to someone buying a car, a house, or a jet ski they absolutely cannot afford. This is fractional reserve banking. It sounds complicated, but it basically means your money is working two jobs while you're still arguing with customer support. Banks make money on the difference between what they pay you in interest and what they charge borrowers. They might give you 0.5% on your savings account while charging someone 7% on a car loan. That gap is their profit. The good news is your money is protected up to $250,000 per depositor per bank by the FDIC, which means unless you're storing billionaire levels of cash in your checking account, you're fine. Interest, the most polite way to get robbed or rich. Interest is money renting money. If you borrow at 21% on a credit card, which is about the average rate right now according to the Federal Reserve, you will watch a $1,000 purchase turn into a long-term relationship. Miss one payment and suddenly your burrito is accruing compound interest. That burrito will outlive you. But flip it around, and interest becomes your best employee. The stock market has historically returned around 7 to 10% annually over long periods, according to data from Vanguard and Morningstar. That means if you invest consistently and leave it alone, your money starts multiplying like it found a cloning machine. Someone who invests $500 a month at around 8% for 30 years ends up with roughly $750,000. Not because they were a genius, because they were patient and didn't panic every time the market sneezed. Interest is either your landlord or your intern. Choose wisely. Inflation. Why your groceries need a payment plan. Inflation is when your money quietly loses value while pretending everything is fine. The US hit a peak inflation rate of 9.1% in 2022. That was the year eggs required financing. By late 2025, it cooled down to roughly the high 2s to low 3s, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The Federal Reserve wants it at 2%, which is their version of just right. Inflation happens when too much money chases too few goods, when supply chains break, when energy prices spike, or when everyone suddenly decides they need the same couch at the same time. To fight inflation, the Fed raises interest rates. Higher rates make borrowing more expensive, which means fewer people buy things, which cools prices. As of early 2026, rates are sitting in the mid-4s after coming down from their peak. Translation: loans are still expensive enough to make you think twice about buying a boat. Recessions. When the economy takes a nap. A recession is when the economy shrinks for 2 quarters in a row. We haven't had an official one since 2020, but growth has slowed. The IMF expects U.S. growth around 2% in 2026, which is the economic equivalent of walking instead of running. Think of the economy like a party. During a boom, everyone is buying new cars and talking about their side hustle. At the peak, someone buys crypto at the worst possible moment. Then the lights flicker, layoffs start, and suddenly everyone is Googling how to cook rice. Recessions hurt, but they also reset things. Bad debt gets cleared, overhyped companies disappear, and eventually growth comes back like nothing happened. Credit scores. Your financial GSWA. Your credit score is a 3-digit number that decides whether you get a mortgage or a lecture. It ranges from 300 to 850. The average American score is about 717, according to FICO. Lenders use it to decide if you're trustworthy or if you're going to vanish into the night with their money. It's mostly based on whether you pay on time and how much of your available credit you use. Use too much and your score drops. Miss payments and your score falls off a cliff. You can have 0 debt and still have a bad score if you've never borrowed anything, which is like trying to get hired with no resume. The system isn't perfect, but if you learn the rules, you can play the game. Money is fake, but also extremely real. The US dollar isn't backed by gold anymore. It's backed by trust, the size of the US economy, the government's ability to tax, and the fact that everyone collectively agrees it works when you hand it to someone for a burrito. That shared belief is doing a lot of heavy lifting. That's fiat currency. It only has value because we all keep treating it like it does, which is either comforting or mildly terrifying depending on your caffeine intake. The US money supply sits around $20 to $21 trillion. According to the Federal Reserve, which sounds made up but is very real when inflation shows up at the grocery store. Print too much and prices rise. Print too little and businesses slow down, layoffs happen, and everyone suddenly starts using the word uncertainty on earnings calls. So the Fed doesn't just print money and hope for the best. They mainly control the flow through interest rates, making borrowing cheaper when the economy needs a boost and more expensive when things start overheating. Think of them like an air traffic controller trying to land the economy safely without letting anything crash. Investing, the only way to outrun inflation. If your money sits in a checking account, earning basically nothing, inflation is slowly eating it like a financial termite. Investing is how you fight back. Stocks give you ownership in companies. Bonds are loans to governments or corporations. Index funds let you own a piece of the whole market without needing to guess which company will win. Real estate lets someone else pay your mortgage if you do it right. U.S. household net worth hit a record around $157 trillion in 2025, according to the Federal Reserve, and most of that wealth is in stocks and real estate, not in savings accounts. Wealth comes from owning assets, not from hoarding cash. Value. Why a logo costs more than the shirt. Value is perception. A plain white t-shirt costs $8. Put a luxury logo on it and suddenly it's $120 and comes with a velvet bag and emotional support. Apple didn't sell phones, they sold status, design, and a charging cable that disappears when you need it. The more value you create for other people, the more money flows back to you. That's why high-income careers solve expensive problems. It's not magic, it's supply and demand with a nice suit. Time. The real cheat code. Time is the most powerful asset you have, and also the only one you can't get more of. Most people trade time for money. Wealthy people use assets and systems so their time keeps earning even when they're asleep. The biggest advantage in investing isn't picking the perfect stock. It's starting early. Someone who starts investing at 25 can end up with twice as much as someone who starts at 35, even if they invest less overall. Not because they're smarter, because time did the heavy lifting. Why most people stay broke. The Federal Reserve's data shows the median retirement savings in the US is under 6 figures, and a huge percentage of Americans would struggle to cover a $400 emergency without borrowing. That's not because people are stupid. It's because nobody teaches this stuff. Debt is easy to get, and investing feels complicated. Money is mostly habits. Small, boring, consistent habits. The simple game plan. Here's what actually works. Build an emergency fund so life doesn't turn into a credit card commercial. Pay off high-interest debt like it's a personal enemy. Use retirement accounts like a 401k and a Roth IRA because the tax advantages are huge. Invest in low-cost index funds and leave them alone for decades. No day trading, no secret strategy, just time, consistency, and not panicking. Money isn't good or evil, it's a tool. A slow, boring, compounding tool that rewards patience and punishes impulsiveness. You don't need to be rich to start, you need to start to become rich. If you want more no-nonsense breakdowns of how money actually works, hit like and subscribe so you can become financially free sooner rather than later. I'll see you in the next one. Your future self is already annoyed you didn't start sooner.